Anybody that's chasing money and continues to chase money never catches it. So the people like your grandparents were never chasing money. They were chasing experiences. They were chasing relationships. They were chasing love. Successful people, money comes to those people who realize, I love this. Zig Ziglar said there are three things that if you just do these three things, everybody will find success.
It reminds me of I mentioned that I've been around what people call high net worth individuals, and this is kind of like this is like a rich person problem. When you have family who have a lot of wealth, but it's not yours, you get the benefit of the gifts they give you, of the lessons they teach you. They show you what's possible. So those are all really good things. And there's this, like, in the back of your mind, there's always this safety net. Like, it would be very embarrassing for me to go, like, hat out saying, I'm sorry, I've messed everything up, please help me. But in the back of my mind, I know that I have connections and I have people who will help me if something goes terribly wrong. All that aside, I feel like that was a giant hedge. All that aside, my grandparents did very well for themselves. My grandfather moved from Germany to Canada in 1950. He started as a stonemason. They hustled. 10 years later, they're a developer. By the early 2000s, roughly, not a privately held company, but roughly $500 million in business and assets. So they were able to grow it over 60, 70 years. There was a point where my grandparents started taking our entire family on family trips. And for their anniversary, for their 50th anniversary, their 55th, their 60th, they were failing in health. We did it for their 63rd. But there was a time where my grandmother turned to my mom and said, oh, we're spending I don't remember what it was. We're spending $15,000 a day to have the family here on this trip. And she's like, and my grandmother went, money well spent. And then a year and a half later, she passed. And that was it. And we were supposed to go for another trip a few months after she passed, but she passed. And so my grandfather canceled the trip and we all canceled the trip. But it always stuck with me where I was like, my $15,000 a day that they're spending to have us here. I'm like, oh, that's so much money. And is it worth it? And couldn't they live in it? It's like all of these rational things. But now that I'm the age I'm at and I could look back at that, I'm like, my goodness, I hope and wish and dream that one day that not only will I be comfortable spending that kind of money to have just my family with me on the beach, in Jamaica for a bunch of days. I think looking back, my grandfather and grandmother would have spent any amount of money to be able to have that time with us, because at a certain point, money stops mattering. Mattering's not a word. It becomes not important anymore because all you want is that time. With the people that you work with, the successful people you work with that have obviously been able to make this transition, how did that transition come in your experience? How were they able to arrive at that? Because you need money, and then when you have it, you don't suddenly, right? You want time, you want connections, you want relationships. Is there a way we could speed that up?
Anybody that's chasing money and continues to chase money never catches it. So the people like your grandparents were never chasing money. They were chasing experiences. They were chasing relationships. They were chasing love. Successful people, money comes to those people who realize, I love this. Zig Ziglar said there are three things that if you just do these three things, everybody will find success. And this person was telling the story about chasing money and how unsuccessful they were because they couldn't, every month it was like paying these bills and then it was this, and they couldn't, every time something good would happen, something bad would happen, and they just couldn't get ahead. And Zig said, you really only need three things. Number one, you need to help people. If you help people and you serve people, it's extremely valuable, but that's the baseline of any business. Number two is you have to turn a profit. There's a concept nowadays where everybody comes out of college and they want to work for the nonprofits. And nonprofits don't have tons of money, and you have tons of resources and opportunity. And a lot of people get lost in saving the world before they've done anything in the world. Do something in the world that makes you great and turn a profit at it. And when you turn a profit at it, it becomes quite valuable. So you're helping people, number one. Number two, you're turning a profit. Number three, you're serving something bigger than yourself. In my instance, it's God. When there's something above you, something that's bigger than you, it's not your ego. You're figuring out how to give the world what you've learned. You're sharing it. It's why I do these podcasts. It's why we do these things, is to bring this logic and this mindset to the world to make the world a little bit better, to change just a little bit. One person listening could be the difference maker. And so the reason I say that is because I think that, your grandparents had success, but there's no way they got to that level of success by being giant jerks and money hungry. And it's just not. But we villainize success, and we villainize it for one of two reasons. We villainize it because we don't have it. And so it becomes something that we look at negatively, or we villainize it because we have no perspective of how to get it. And so our job is to help people find ways to get it. And those people that you asked and referenced are most successful when the money doesn't matter at all. They don't give a damn about the money. The money is, they're not watching, they're not Ebenezer Scrooge watching their stocks go up or down every single day, counting money every single day. They actually are just watching what money can do in their lives to help the people around them. And they're bringing every damn person they can with them. That's what those good people are doing. That's what your grandparents obviously were doing.
I love that. I hadn't thought of it that way before. Um, Now, the Ziegler quote is interesting to me, right? The idea that you need to be able to do something that helps people, you need to be able to turn a profit, so that way you can have access to cash and reinvest it, and it makes sense that way, and then serve the bigger purpose. How, and again, we're speaking philosophically as opposed to tactically, because you don't know the case in front of you. But most of the time, we struggle to take ourselves out of everyday life to free up the space, the time, the resources, what we need to go out and serve people. If I'm working a minimum wage job or two jobs, I don't have time or energy to go out and serve people. I mean, we call it the side hustle and all of that stuff. But how do we stop doing the things that we can't be doing to free up space for the things we should be doing, so that way we can serve people, so that way we can generate a profit? So again, you need that like kickstart. You need that coverage.
You know what's really funny, Mark? I get in these, I have family members that will tell me that my kids don't understand work ethic, and they want them to come out and do things like yard work and different things. We have someone that does our yard. We have someone like we my kids are not doing the chores that I had to do growing up. Okay. And I didn't have to do horrible chores because my dad grew up in a household that he was made to do a lot of things he never wanted to do. But that's a whole different story. Here's the point that I'm trying to get at. My children have learned their work ethic in a different way. I actually tell my sons all the time, if they want to earn money, I will pay them to read books that I choose for them. Because what I've learned, if you're struggling in a minimum wage job, the differential between how you get to the next level and where you feel stuck is learning that it's not hard work that's going to get you there. It's actually smart work that's going to get you there. It's understanding how people have done it before you. It's studying. It's not going formally to college. It's learning, reading, Think and Grow Rich, reading Viktor Frankl's A Man's Search for Meaning, reading perspective. What a lot of people lack is just perspective. When you heard $15,000, you had no perspective of what that $15,000 meant to your grandparents. You only knew the perspective that you sat in. So it's all about the perspective. The other thing that I like to remind people of is my sons are both competitive soccer players. Now, they may go on to do something different. They may never ever excel in life at that sport. But here's what they do. They work their asses off all the time. They do practice 4 to 5 days a week. They train on their own when they want to. Their work ethic will reciprocate in the real world extremely well. Sometimes people have to dip back into who they were and where they came from to remember exactly what makes them great. So I have this conversation. My executive team at my company is mostly women. And I love that because the perspective and the wisdom that I get from different mindset and our industry is not one that's predominantly anything but men. It's all men and less than 20% women, even less minorities. Here's the interesting point. A lot of times when you're coaching or consulting with women that have been out of the workforce because they've had children, they don't even realize all the great things they've been doing or that they did, and they think they have to start from the bottom again, and they lose all that confidence. And so, how many athletes are out there that spent unbelievable amount of time as a child playing soccer 4 or 5 days a week, and now they're working that blue collar job and they can't get ahead? They don't remember surrounding themselves around people that were crushing it in that sport. They don't remember that they were awesome at something and it came from not only hard work, but learning from the best coaches. Like, there are other little tiny factors that if you just plant those seeds with people, it's amazing how it will erupt and grow into something so much more exponential that has nothing to do with money. It has nothing to do with it.